The hotel alias she booked under my name. I make strangers arrive where they're supposed to. That's the polite way to describe my job. Officially, I'm a corporate travel risk manager, routing executives around strikes, storms, and the kind of headlines that make shareholders shy. In practice, I'm the quiet map behind the speech. I see every flight change at 2 a.m., every black car detour, every boutique hotel that bills itself as discretion. I don't just know where people are. I know where they intended to be before they changed their minds. Mara used to joke that I married itineraries. "You love confirmations more than compliments," she'd say, sliding my phone out of my hand and replacing it with the back of her knee. She's a brand strategist. Events, launches, museum galas with slogans that sound like they were tested on a moon crater. We fit because we made chaos behave. We could turn a week into a clean line. Her deck, my spreadsheet, the shared click of a door lock at midnight. The alias arrived like a typo with perfect grammar. I was clearing a backlog after a storm had turned 3 regions into paper airplanes. The system flagged a new booking on my corporate account, Hotel Delina, Riverview, 2 nights. The traveler name read, Elliot Hale, that's me. The credit card matched my corporate card, except I hadn't made the reservation. The email on file was my personal address, not work. Clever. The phone number was 1 digit off, the kind of disguise you choose when you want a call to fail just long enough. The note field said, "Arrival courtesy of partner. No further details." The hotel was one of those elegant secrets with a lobby designed to make shoes feel judged. We stayed there once for Mara's birthday. She'd worn a navy dress and the kind of grin that turns a hallway into a dare. I could have called the hotel. I could have canceled with a keystroke and watched the system swallow the room like nothing. Instead, I moved the reservation to a test folder, a place where things go when I want to look at them without interrupting traffic. The alias glowed there like a buoy. Mara came home smelling like saffron and donor therapy. She kicked off her heels and leaned against the counter the way people do when they need a wall to pick a side. "The museum wants the word inevitable in bronze," she said. "How do you make inevitability look humble?" "You make it smaller than the plaque," I said, pulling her close by the waist of her skirt. She laughed and kissed me with a softness she uses on days when her armor creaks. Heat rose in me the way it does when the city pretends to be kind. After, we lay in the dark with our foreheads touching, and I told the ceiling I would not ask her why my fake self was about to check into the Delina. The next morning, while Mara showered, I opened my workstation at the kitchen table and ran the hotel through our back-end portal. The reservation had an arrival request: a corkscrew, 2 glasses, a fruit plate, and something that made me lean back in my chair, the vinyl of Nick Cave to be placed near the record player the Delina keeps in every river suite. We own that album on vinyl, a ridiculous coincidence unless it was. The note ended with the initials MH. Not Elliot, not a stranger. Mara Hale. Mara stepped into the kitchen in a robe that believed names were optional. She poured coffee and thumbed through overnight messages with her hair twisted into a careless knot I love like a superstition. "How many fires?" she asked. "Fewer than yesterday," I said. My laptop screen reflected in her mug. I closed it like a good man. Here's the thing about my job. I can reroute a CEO midair without them noticing they just dodged a strike. I can move an entire board dinner across town because a protest decided to love the original venue. I can erase a room from a credit card statement so neatly that the bank will swear it never existed. It is not a skill set I recommend practicing on your marriage. I let the alias breathe for a day. I answered phone calls from people who believe urgency can be injected through a speaker. I booked a last-minute itinerary for a woman whose toddler had the audacity to get sick on a Wednesday. I pretended not to see the way the Delina reservation sat in my peripheral vision like a nerve. At 4 I called the hotel, voice pitched to the tone I use when I need a lobby to move. "This is Elliot Hale," I said. "Any chance you can place my vinyl request in 1406 by 7? I'll be running late." "Of course, Mr. Hale," the clerk said, warmth printed in his vowels. "Will your partner be checking in on your behalf again?" Again, the word did push-ups on my spine. "Same arrangement," I said, and thanked him for pretending to be fooled. At 6, I told Mara I had to fix a supplier revolt in Frankfurt. She told me she'd be at the office late with a donor. We said adult things like take your time and text me if you need anything. Then I put on the suit I wear when I don't want to be read and walked to the Delina with a stomach that thought it was an elevator. The Delina's lobby is all dark stone and light like the idea of a river. A hostess smiled like a confidentiality agreement. "Welcome back," she said, which is a sentence that can mean too many things. I nodded at her and took the elevator that believes mirrors are destiny. I didn't knock. I couldn't be the man who knocks. I slid the alias keycard, a courtesy of my job's access, into the slot and stepped into 1406 like a person sneaking into their own life. The room was staged like Discretion's catalog, fruit plate glistening, Nick Cave waiting beside the player, the curtains open to the river pretending it had invented light. On the credenza sat a bottle of red with a note folded under its neck. I recognized the paper before I recognized the hand. We keep the same notepads at home in the drawer with batteries and things we swear will sort. The note read, "For Thursday, MH." The bathroom door was closed. Water ran. I heard a woman hum under the noise, the half-melody she uses when she isn't thinking about being heard. I took 3 steps toward the door and stopped because this was the part where rooms get smaller. The water cut. The door opened and steam issued the room an invitation to be careful. Mara stepped out, hair damp, robe knotted like she trusted her own hands. She froze, then thawed into a face I didn't recognize, which is not the same as a face I didn't love. "Elliot," she said, and the humor died in her mouth. "That's me," I said, and heard the cheapness of the line as it left me. "How many of us are there tonight?" She closed her eyes 1 second the way a person closes a window. Then she opened them and chose not to perform. "I booked it under your name because it was the only way I could get it covered without hitting my card," she said. Honest, swift, strategic, the safest possible opening. "Covered by what?" I asked. "The foundation," she said. Board dinner ended early. Julian wanted a quiet place to go over sponsorship language before tomorrow's press thing. He's intense. I thought I could get him to sign off on the part about artist housing if I took him out of the room with the champagne. The alias card cut at my palm. "Where is he?" "Not here," she said. I texted him from the lobby and told him we should do it in the morning. I stood at the bar and tried to learn how to breathe, and then I came up here to figure out if I was the person who wanted to be in this room with him or the person who wanted to text you and tell you I was about to make the worst story in the world look like a choice. "And which one did you decide to be?" I asked, somehow gentle. "The one who hoped you wouldn't knock," she said, and there was such smallness in the sentence that I had to look at the river to keep my chest from doing something dramatic. I put my hands in my pockets because my hands are untrustworthy when my mouth is trying to be a courtroom. "How many times?" I said. "Twice," she said. "Once in a place that calls itself a members club but is really a rental for preening. Once at the end of a gala when everything looked like permission. It was. I wanted to be wanted in a way that didn't ask me to explain 3 years of logistics and 1,000 little ways you save the world at 2 in the morning. I save the world by spreadsheet, I said. I forget yours needs heat. It needs you, she said. Bare, stupid, true. And I need to be the kind of person who tells you before the room fills with props. We stood facing each other with the record player like a witness that didn't know which way to look. She stepped one step closer. I didn't move. Her hand lifted like a truce flag and she touched the lapel of my jacket, not claiming, almost asking forgiveness from cloth before asking it from me. Did you book it under my name because you wanted me to find it? I said. Yes, she said. Because if you found it, I could be brave without having to be theatrical. I could be honest badly. I hate how smart that is, I said, and I hate how much I understand. I should have left. Every movie says leave. But the city outside the glass was the same one where we built Thursday morning rituals and private jokes about the way I always pretend the salt is empty when I want her to ask me to pass it. The bed was the color of surrender, and I am a man who likes surrender when it's earned. End it, I said. Not tomorrow in a text that gets drafted 7 times. Now. I did, she said. In the lobby, before the shower, before I rehearsed telling you so many times I forgot my own cadence. The river always finds a way to sound like proof. I nodded. Then we start from ugly. No more aliases. No more hotel vinyl. If a board member needs a quiet room, we rent a conference space and let the fluorescent lights do the moral heavy lifting. She smiled a little. You're good at rules. They're my love language, I said. Also, if you're going to be wanted for your heat, at least let me be in the room when the fire starts. We did not excuse it with sex. We made a small pact with touch. She stood in front of me and I put my mouth on her shoulder where the robe revealed, and I felt her body answer in that involuntary way that is not forgiveness but memory. She breathed my name into my neck and I almost made us a cliché. I stepped back. Her eyes thanked me and accused me at once. We left the Delina together, past the hostess who pretended we weren't a story, into the air that forgives slower than rooms. At home, the kitchen table did what it always does, kept us oriented. We wrote rules like 2 nerds who had to make a marriage out of lists. Thursdays would belong to us like a stubborn holiday. Phones faced on unless one of us said show me, and then they would flip without theater. If either of us drifted toward a room that needed a credit card to excuse it, we'd say the word hotel out loud and let it ruin the vibe. Most importantly, I promised to stop managing her like she was a flight to be rerouted. She promised to tell me when she felt like whether I kept predicting instead of watching. We saw a therapist the following week because I don't believe in fate but I believe in professionals. She asked us where we stopped telling the truth first. I said, when I started living in contingencies. Mara said, when I confused being admired with being loved. The room felt bigger after we said it. 2 weeks later, my inbox tried to betray us with temptation. A client wanted the Delina for a quiet alignment session. I wrote back, alignment can happen anywhere. Try the conference room with the ugly carpet. He relented like people do when someone else decides where the line is. That night, I sent Mara a calendar invite. Thursday, 7 p.m., our living room, Nick Cave, cheap red. She accepted with a heart, and then came home and pressed me against the wall near the coat hooks and kissed me like she just remembered the coordinates of her own mouth. It's not a movie now. It's better and worse. We're specific. Sometimes in bed she pulls me over her with a greed that used to scare me with how much it required and now just answers a door. Sometimes we stop halfway because stopping is the truest thing available and we treat that as intimacy, not failure. On a Tuesday, she texts me a picture of her at a lunch where the donor's gaze could ignite kindling. She adds one sentence, "This is a look," not a life, and I feel my chest loosen. I still deal in aliases. They cross my screen daily. Executives who insist on reserving under their dog's name, actors who travel as obscure poets. I still hide rooms when I need to keep a merger quiet from a board member who wants to make a heroic leak. But when the Delina pops up, it's for a conference with fluorescent lights, bad coffee, and transparently named agendas. I like walking through that lobby and knowing we took one story out of it. Last Thursday, I came home to the sight of candles in jelly jars and a record waiting on the turntable. Mara wore something black and simple, and the kind of expression that used to scare men who were sure they could improvise the night. She poured wine with the left hand she writes under aliases with, and pressed her right palm to my chest the way she does when she wants to feel what she's asking me to protect. "Do you still hate me a little?" she asked, not fishing. "A little," I said, "like a scar that forgot the first wound." "Do you still want me a lot?" she asked, and this time she knew the answer. "A lot," I said, and she smiled the way a map smiles when you stop pretending you're lost. We put the record on. We kissed against the kitchen door not because it is a cinematic surface, but because that's where our bodies reached first. She laughed into my mouth and slid her fingers under my shirt like she was reminding the world where she lived. We didn't let the night argue for us. We argued for ourselves, with hands and mouths that had learned a new grammar while still speaking the old fluently. People think trust is a cliff you jump off once and then you're done falling. It's not. It's a series of railings you learn to install together in hallways you never thought you walk. My job taught me how to reroute without drama. Our marriage taught me when not to. I still love confirmations. I keep one printed in my wallet like a joke just for me. Delina 1406, Thursday, 2 guests. It reminds me of the night I walked into a room that could have ended us and walked out with the person I wanted to keep. Not because we were inevitable, because we were chosen again on purpose, in a world that makes it very easy to be someone else.